Hi, you guys. I feel like this morning I ran every errand known to man and it wore me out. It's little things like that that just make the MS feel like we've done everything. And it's just like post office, bank, and stuff like that. But post office, which means I got to see the man there that knows that I'm a men's rights advocate and, speak up for men, as I did for him one day when one of the bosses, women, was giving him a hard time. Anyway, I kind of couldn't stop myself and I didn't. So I walked in and it was he and another guy, another man that were doing the two cashier desks, kiosks, whatever, I don't know what they're called. But he said something to the other man. He said, man of war. Well, this is woman of war. It's funny. And I can tell he's genuinely happy to see me. It made a difference that day when I stood up for him and said, you need to stop talking to men like that, like they're all slaves. Anyway, I told him about the channel and that we're growing. And he said, well, you got to keep doing it then. And I said, yep, definitely. It's not really a choice. So that was good. It's nice. It's nice and weird when it's sort of like live and in person, but it needs to be. It can't just be in this echo chamber. It can't just be in these videos. It needs to be, in real life. And I'm trying to do better at that. But anyway, welcome back to Far From Eden. And if you're new here, welcome. We talk about men's issues. We talk about the differences between men and women and sexual politics, gender politics, not that kind of gender politics, but like just how we're all sort of working together or not working together and why. Feminism. Anyway, so tonight I took last night off and I thought about you guys still. I'm not going to lie, I felt a little guilty. I need to get over it. That's my own deal. But I wanted to do something just a little different tonight. I wanted to watch a court case with you. Somebody asked me today, how do I find all these court cases? Why do I, where do they come from? And I was like, well, back when I started being a content consumer in 2022, yeah, I started with the Canadian truckers because I was like, I want to see what's going on, right? What's going on up there? Because you couldn't really find news coverage. So I looked and I was so into it and I was so dumb about YouTube. I was on YouTube, but I didn't know anything about it really. And I learned about live streaming and all that. And I was like, wow, this is incredible. Never looked back. So anyway, then shortly after that was Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. So that led me to court cases and I became what's known as a law tuber. And not that I'm a lawyer, but it's very fascinating to me. And I have found it is a great way to see the women folk in their natural habitat. That being, this is just how they're interacting. This is just how they're going about getting what they want or trying to. And you get to see it. It's right there. So little birdie told me this was a good one. So let's see if that's true. I have seen this judge before. I've seen her as both an attorney and as a judge, and I like her. So that's one of the things that I kind of look for with in these court cases is I kind of want to see if things are changing, if the financial graping is still going on. And yeah, that comment that one person left about, don't call it that. People are actually great. I'm like, yeah, people are actually financially great too. And people actually end themselves over it, lady. And you need to shut your face because you don't know what you're talking about. So I was like, well, let's watch a court case. But it seems to me, I could be wrong. I totally could be wrong. And I want you guys to tell me. It seems to me the financial stuff that they would always do was more, I don't know, over 10 years ago. It seems like now the court will make both of them work. Both parents have to pay child support. And it kind of both goes together and then supports the child. So the woman isn't allowed to just not work and live off of like the child support as they used to do. Like that used to be the game. And I don't know how or when it stopped, or if it's actually stopped. So I would love to know from you guys if there's any of you who are sort of fairly recently going through this, what it is. It seems like nowadays it's more about accusing the men, not that they didn't do that before, but it's like they're accusing the dads of stuff so that they can get the kids. It's all about getting the kids. And it seems like in the videos I've seen, in the court cases I've seen, they'll stop at pretty much nothing to do it. The lengths they'll go to. But anyway, I digress. We don't need to talk about it. This is an example of one. So we will get to see how it goes. I bumped it up to a little faster than what it is, because I think I know that guys do that with all the videos they watch. They speed it up. They speed them up. I bet you guys speed me up. It's like, come on, get to the point. I know. I get sick of myself too. I don't want to blast us away with this. Still getting good at this. So this is from Looking at Legal Stuff, and they have great.
All right, Mr. Sorensen, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Phone seems to be working a lot better, and it's much more clear. So I'm ready to.
One more thing. The other thing is, the reason I like to watch it from another creator, like Looking at Legal Stuff, is I am in this space so much, and I don't want to lose touch with how the normies are thinking about this stuff. So not that somebody who creates this content on YouTube is an actual like normie, they're probably a little bit different, but it's good to see their comments, because then I'm not just seeing it through the lens that I have. It kind of helps me go, oh, this is what their take is. And I kind of like that, because I don't want to just go down a certain way and just always think I'm right, and not be challenged on it, because I don't want to be right for the sake of being right at all. So that's why I like their comments. So let's see.
Hear your comments related to your motion for contempt.
Your Honor, I'm here today to hold Ms. Fike in contempt and regain my residential schedule with my son. As you can see from the filed statements, what I have filed and asking for. The parenting plan was not obeyed by the mother, and the violations are as follows. Did not follow the residential schedule in Section 8, Paragraph B. I was denied visitation on 6/25, 6/26, and 7/7. Ms. Fike disparaged the parent, myself, in front of the child, which occurred on 6/25 pickup day, which violates Section 14, Paragraph restrictions in the parenting plan, where she discussed adult issue matters, badmouthed me and my wife, and slandered me, used profanity towards me, refused my visitation, and kicked me off her property in front of our son. She asked the child involved to make decisions or requests involving the residential schedule, which violates Section 14, Paragraph restrictions. Ms. Fike and our son clearly discussed changing the residential plan. Ms. Fike requests our son to discuss and to make a decision on attending visitation, where he chose not to. She discussed.
Typical. The mothers do this a lot. They will try to form an alliance with the child, that child, and then against the father. So it's like they expose them to what's going on in court. There's a lack of boundaries. You'll see this a lot. Because functionally, when you get divorced, there's a guy and there's a girl. And so that's a single mother, that's a single father. But we know the stats on what both of those produce. And when you don't have boundaries and you expose the child to adult decisions and adult, concepts, etc., that they're not prepared to carry, you get problems. But it's typical.
Changing the residential schedule with our child outside of already agreed plans, which violates Section 14, Paragraph restrictions. She encouraged the child, it was his choice to change his primary residence and his choice whether or not he attends, which violates Section 14 and the Paragraph restrictions. She did not construct a regular and consistent responsiveness and cooperation during refusal of visitation, which also violates the Section 14 with restrictions.
Look at her face.
Tiffany did not attempt to reach me in any way on June 25th to discuss, resolve, or inform me of any disruptions to the schedule, even after being instructed to do so by LPD. She tells my child he does not have to attend visitation, that she is not going to make him, goes and files a plan for supervised visits, and tells me he should stay with her until the 20th. Then, after being informed of contempt, states she can't physically make him go. That contradicts all her claims, and that she is following the parenting plan and keeping him from me.
Look at her face.
Ms. Fike did not notify me prior to pickup to inform me of Christopher's refusal, She had hours to do so and did not. She also did not discuss any resolutions with me, asked me to get help Christopher to attend, did not ask the police to enforce her help, did not ask me to attend a conversation at pickup time.
Look at that
Instead,
face.
she had Christopher contact me, inform me it was
Okay. I may or may not have studied some body language from the body language guys from YouTube, like the group, the four, what are they called? The behavior panel. Two things I see. Well, first of all, look where it's paused. Look at that. Please look at that attitude. Like, how old are we? 15 with this attitude? Okay. The chin jutted out. That's like defiance, right? And then the other thing, the other expression she's making, and these are pretty like solid body language things. The other thing she's doing is, besides the chin jutting out, she's doing one side of her mouth up like that, or and that's by and large, that's contempt. And it's one of the most universal facial expressions that basically means that one thing. There's very few things that you can go, they touch their nose, they're lying, or oh, they raise their eyebrows, it's this. There's very few things you can say that, but contempt is one side of the mouth. It's pretty universal. Just like, look at her face. Does she not know? Like, do you not know what your face looks like, woman?
was not attending visitation 4 hours before visitation was to occur. She had plenty of time to contact me during the 4 hours before pickup time to occur and didn't. I attempted to contact Ms. Fike and she denied both phone calls, which puts our child in decision making. I had no choice but to contact LPD for help. LPD then contacted Ms. Fike when she answered for them, and she was instructed to follow the parenting plan and to make sure my son came home, and was also instructed to contact me. Neither one occurred. Ms. Fike never made contact with me. After being informed by Christopher he was not to attend visitation and speaking with LPD, I attempted to pick Christopher up that evening. I was met at the door with Tiffany trying to facilitate an ambush against me in front of my son and Coach Christopher, not once telling Christopher he is to attend visitation and go with me, or to get in the car, which should have been the only issue we were discussing. Instead, she was allowing my son to tell me he is not attending and he shouldn't have to, with his mother in agreement. That she's not going to make him. Christopher was disrespecting me and defying my wishes to get in the car. She also instructed me to read a letter Christopher wrote to the courts, not to me, but to the courts. I read the first few lines and it was talking ill about me and my wife and tired of having to obey our rules, again placing him in the middle of involving him in court decisions. She wanted to control the narrative and shame and slander me in front of our son. It was in a non-constructive environment, not suitable for any discussion. I ended up being told by Ms. Fike to get off her property and to leave without my son. I tried the following day to get Christopher and was met again with text from Christopher that he is not attending. I tried calling Ms. Fike, who did not answer, and received text that she is not going to make him. I tried to regain my visitation on the second week I was to have Christopher. I set up counseling for him to attend and tried to contact Ms. Fike that Christopher needs to attend visitation. She did not want to hear anything about it. She refused communication about the second visitation to start on 7/7. I did not in any way approach Ms. Fike combatively or maliciously. I simply informed her Christopher needs to come home, attend counseling, and offered a non-conflict way to get him home. She ignored my text. The following day, however, she threatened harassment charges on me if I were to continue talking about receiving my son. She told me we needed to wait for court and that Christopher should remain with her until then. I contacted LPD, who tried to get Ms. Fike again to follow through with the parenting plan, mentioning multiple times it's in her best interest to do.
It would be really out of character, in my humble opinion, for a man to be lying about all this. They generally don't go to court and lie. They just don't. That's not what they do. And, at this point, we don't know. I should be keeping an open mind, but her face and her expressions, like just the amount of venom you could see, it's already like, it's discrediting her. And this is so well thought out. It's so perfectly planned. He's not attacking her. He's not calling her names. He is just saying exactly what happened, exactly what was done in a very calm way. Men can do well in court if they're on top of it like this. Now, I understand that it also can turn out really badly when you have a woman who's accusing you, etc. However, I don't think it's as slanted as it used to be. And it is so much about, God, you do have to have your stuff together more than she does. I'm not going to lie. You do. You have to be more prepared. But at least it matters. At least you can actually help yourself now. Whereas before, you just didn't have a chance at all. So her face is not helping her. But I don't know if the judge sees that. I don't know. Well, let's find out how clueless is this judge. How much of a simp is this judge? We don't know.
Everything possible to follow the parenting plan. And she told them as well she was not going to force Christopher to go. OPT then instructed me to continue with the contempt. She supports any and all alienation of involvement and sees no issue with it at all. Ms. Fike, in the midst of this, used her personal server, be that of her mother, Jill Hall, the grandmother of Christopher, who for the better half of 3 years, it was ordered by the courts she does not be around Christopher until she can attend drug counseling and pass a hair follicle test, since she is a known drug addict and has placed Christopher in danger in the past. A woman who is not allowed around my son should not be allowed on my property or near my family. Jill Hall came to my residence twice, both times relentlessly banging on my door and ringing the doorbell for over 5 minutes at a time. Jill Hall is a very dangerous and unpredictable individual that should not be involved in this situation or around in any form. I told Jill Hall when I retrieved the papers to not come back to my property, where she then screamed, "You've been served." Ms. Fike utilizing her mother in this situation is very concerning and puts our family in danger, which only solidifies malicious intent. The constant problem at hand is Christopher feeling pressured and coached to evade my house. He is discouraged from loving myself or a lifelong bonus mom. Christopher voices this time and time again and asks for help on the issue. Every 2 to 3 years, Tiffany tries to find ways to manipulate the courts and change the schedule, use baseless false accusations to attain that. This case is consistent with the previous ones. Christopher displays the same antics at our house, however, it is handled appropriately. Christopher voices major and concerning issues about his mother's home weekly. So we utilize a school counselor when he has an issue. We set up a meeting there to discuss it. We don't ambush Ms. Fike or harass her via text.
Ooh, I wonder what the issues are at mom's house that the son has problems with. I wonder what he sees over there.
And call, disrespect, or make Christopher feel he has to choose. We pick a professional setting suitable for all parties involved. Your Honor, Christopher refuses. He does not want to attend his mother's visitation almost every week and voices concerns on Fridays. However, we encourage him to spend time with his mother, tell him he is to attend. We run through problem solving, give him problem solving tips. We do not keep him home from her or make him choose to involve him in the court matters that are trauma causing. We always try to facilitate a constructive in-house resolution without slandering Tiffany or causing Christopher to feel in the middle. I myself initiated and asked the court's last custody case to hire a GAL to help with the ongoing issue. I knew involving a professional who works to find the truth would, and she did.
So he hired a guardian ad litem himself to be the, the third party to actually look into everything that's going on, interview the child perhaps, basically study everything and go, okay, what is going on here? I don't think the person who's doing the bad stuff is the person who's hiring a guardian ad litem. Usually the person who's being naughty and being shady is not a big fan of the guardian ad litem, because the guardian ad litem will call them out on their BS. So it'd be weird if it's the dad who's actually the bad guy in this situation. And I hate that I'm like, which one's the bad guy? But if we're all the way here in court, somebody is.
Did. Rhonda Larson did an amazing job. She is also available to call on as she is still on her case. I also have been working with the school counselor and Christopher about this exact problem Christopher has with his mother making him to choose sides, lying about my wife and myself, making false allegations. I also attained an outside counselor outlet for Christopher through the school counselor to help with these issues at Northwest Psychology. I cannot comprehend how Ms. Fike thinks complete annihilation of our family is a good plan. She feels the need to constantly destroy me, my wife's relationship, and family. She uses Christopher in order to do so, not realizing she's destroying him in the process. Christopher has been forced by his mother to write letters, make false claims, and statements about my family, which I know fills Christopher with guilt and embarrassment, as he states. A time my son should have been spending with myself, attending youth group, Christ for the Court basketball camp, collecting his volunteer hours for high school. We have scheduled on our time, attending his job he acquired, family vacations, 2 of which were canceled due to these circumstances, missing his sister. Instead, he spent a better portion of almost a month away from me with no communication at all, under the impression he is prepared to take his father to court. Stressed, sad, and unequivocally involved in adult matters no child should, my son has never gone 3 days without talking to me or 7 days without seeing me in his entire life. While I've been dedicated to following the instructions of the court and parenting plan, Ms. Fike has been creating an environment of paranoia and fear for Christopher, taking him away from his family and disregarding the instructions set forth by the courts and law enforcement. I'm asking the courts to bring my son home immediately for the lost time to be awarded, where he needs to attend counseling, get back into a schedule he lost, and attend his youth group, prepare for school coming up. He desperately thrives on this schedule that has been robbed. I'd like Ms. Fike held accountable so this situation is to never occur again.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Sorensen. All right, Ms. Fike, I'll hear your response in relation to the motion for contempt, please.
Yes. So, like you said, this is my 3rd attempt to change the parenting plan. Well, 3 years ago, my son threatened to run away. He's threatened to run away from his dad's house multiple times due to mental and emotional abuse from his dad and stepmom, and more so physical, as Mariah has pushed Christopher before.
I'm sorry, Mariah. We have a problem with Dad's new woman. right off the bat. She's barely spoken, and immediately, what do I always say? Women will tell on themselves. They will tell on themselves. Mariah has pushed him. Mental and emotional abuse, they love to claim that. They love to claim it. You just said it. Like, give an example, lady. Give an example.
The reason why I've put this motion in place, because Sunday, June 25th, we got home from my sister's house. It was my nephew's birthday party. He was to go to his dad's at 8 p.m. At 6 p.m. that night, he comes to me or calls me into his room and says, Mom, what would happen if I refused to go to my dad? Is he muted? What would happen if my mom or if I refused to go to my dad's house? I told him, I'm not sure what would happen, but why don't you want to go to your dad's? Like I said, this was 6 p.m. It was 2 hours before he would have went to his dad's house. I'm talking to him about it, why he doesn't want to go to his dad's. He says the same reason for years. He said he was in the middle of writing a letter to the courts. I did not persuade him. This came out of nowhere, that he refused and wants to write a letter to the courts. Did I submit that letter? I was about it.
Sorry.
My son is mentally and emotionally abused.
Sorry. I think I might have skipped somewhere. I have tutored before, and I'm not saying I've tutored every single boy, but it's kind of odd for a boy to just be like, I'm going to write a letter to the courts. I just don't buy it.
He's over there daily. He's never wanted to go to his dad's house. He has blatantly said it every single week, but this is the first time he's actually refused to go. I told him I'm not going to make him, but that he needs to go. I feel like he does. But in the back of my mind, from what's been happening over the years, that nobody's been listening. Like, I feel like this, like I said in my declaration, this is his final cry for help. I'm hoping he wants to talk to you, the judge. He wants his voice heard, not what, because the back and forth saying what Christopher says at his dad's house and what Christopher says here, like somebody else needs to be that middleman. And as of counseling, I didn't hear about him putting him into counseling until, let's say, I didn't get served with his papers till the 4th of July. And that's when I read that he had an appointment at Northwest Psychological, which we both should have been informed on that as well. And then the next day on July 5th, Joseph texted me and said that Christopher will be going to that appointment, that he made this appointment, this and that. Well, I already also made him an appointment at Core Health. He has an appointment on August 1st at 1 p.m. Christopher filled out the intake. Christopher filled out all the questionnaires as it's his counseling session, and he turned it in. So my question is...
Wait, okay, so dad made a counseling appointment. So then mom made a counseling appointment? God, why does everything have to be such a competition?
Why, or how did he get that appointment with psychological without talking to Christopher about, or having Christopher fill out the child intake? Because that's what the other courthouse says, it's for him. Since he's over the age of 13, teens have a little bit more rights than parents know of. And I said, okay, that makes more sense.
She is really grasping.
I read the child and intake form that would have been filled out for psychological. And one of the questions were, for you as a parent, why do you think that your son needs counseling? Well, I'm not sure what they put on that piece of paper, but my son is refusing to go to his dad's house. So whatever they put on that paper is what they're telling you. So my thought is Northwest Psychological already has a different version of what Christopher's really.
So she's basically accusing the dad of filling out the intake form to hide whatever bad stuff he's doing to the kid. So dad wants to take the kid to a counselor, try to, falsify the intake stuff. Why would he have hired a guardian ad litem and initiated taking the kid to counseling? Nice try, lady. How dumb do you think everybody is?
Going through, because his dad wrote whatever he did on that paper. The intake that Christopher filled out for Core Health is all of his words, all of his answers, all of everything for Christopher. I didn't even read it. I just took him to turn it in. Like, all that is.
Wow.
I didn't read it because I want people to realize I'm not the one making him do this. I'm not the one bringing court into him.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not the one who's bringing any of that up. Christopher is pretty much fed up. And what happened at the airport after his DC trip with his stepmom, I think that might have been the last straw, because
stepmom.
It's just too much. I'm really hoping that somebody's actually going to listen. It's not me holding Christopher away from his dad. It's Christopher refusing to go. As my part, yes, I should force him. I'm not going to physically force my son to go somewhere where he's not safe or doesn't feel safe until somebody else says so. Which I feel counseling is going to make that tremendous leap. Or talking to the judge or getting that input response, because Christopher is suffering. He's almost 15 years old. We've been going back and forth to court since he was little. because of everything Christopher has told me. And
No,
everything I've written is what my son tells
No.
me. I believe him 100%.
no, it's you.
100%. Regardless of what people say that he's embellishing stories to get the parents to believe what they want to believe. That is ridiculous because he's still refusing to go. With Joe saying that they haven't been any contact, Christopher has a phone. He hasn't even tried to contact his son to even ask him why he doesn't want to go. He still hasn't asked him why. He could have put that effort into talking to his son too, because he has a phone. But regardless, I've never ignored his text messages. All the police said their advice is to go with the parenting plan, and I told them I was doing that as best as I can.
Oh, we are
6
all
p.m.
over
is
the
when Christopher
place.
brought that up to me about refusing to go to his dad's. I get a call from LPD by 6:20 because Christopher also says, oh, and I text my dad I wasn't going. I never told him to text his dad. He did that all on his own. 6:20, no, around that time, Joe calls me. I didn't answer because I was in the middle of a discussion with my son trying to figure out why he doesn't want to go because he had till 8 p.m. to go. So I'm trying to talk to my son. So then he
Manipulator.
calls the police and says I'm not responding. The police call and I explain to the officer, yes, that I didn't answer his phone call because I'm in the middle of talking to my son about why he doesn't want to go to his dad's house.
You're
So
in the
that
middle
shouldn't
of
be put on me because I
manipulating.
didn't answer his phone call.
In the middle of
I'm
manipulating.
trying to get down to the bottom of it. And he just, nobody's listening.
Nobody's agreeing with you blindly. Watch her
When he
stuff
came over,
whenever it's quiet. She
after,
can't let it be quiet.
you know, thank Christopher saying not going. Joe shows up around 7:55 that evening, demanding Christopher to come out. Christopher sitting on the chair. He would not come out of the house. I'm like, Christopher, you need to get up. Christopher, you need to come talk to your dad. It took my husband telling him, you know, Christopher, you need to get up. Go talk to your dad. He got up, went to the door, did want Christopher to read that, or Joseph to read that letter that he did write. He did admit to the police that he only read the first sentence or two and nothing was slandering or anything about anybody. He didn't even get to read the letter.
What?
And with my mother, who's, yes, it's been 3 years since she was, 3 years ago, Joe and Mariah brought my mother up in our custody case for some weird reason, because my son and my mom are inseparable. Inseparable.
Uh-oh. That's dangerous.
My thought is they brought my mom up into my court case because they didn't have anything to go against me. Long story short, Judge Basher ordered for her not to see my son in person. They can still contact, FaceTime, and talk on the phone until she does what she's supposed to do, which I did submit the hair follicle tests and stuff too. I'm hoping to address that at this court date as well. My mother has always been the person who serves for me. That has nothing to do with my malicious intent, because I don't have anybody else willing to go over there because of how they are. And my mom's the only one willing to do it, and I need to serve. And I'm not going to pay $40 for a sheriff to do it because that's ridiculous.
Why? Why is it ridiculous?
My mom banging on their door 5-10 minutes at a time. That's because you're not answering and she's trying to serve you papers.
I don't believe her.
Long story short, everybody is trying to pinpoint all this on me when I hope people open their eyes and realize my son is in not a very good place. He's very sad.
My son, my son, my son. I hate that. I hate that so much. And it's usually the women that do it.
Depressed. He wants people to listen. He's tired of nobody hearing his story.
All right, thank you, Ms. White. I appreciate your input. What I'd like to do now, I want to hear from each party on the motion to modify and the motion for adequate cause that has been brought by Ms. Fike. So Ms. Fike, if you want to address your motion, then I'll hear from Mr. Sorensen, and then I'll give you a ruling on both motions. Ms. Fike?
Yes.
All right, here we go.
My order on adequate cause.
See what she's got. Come on, lady. Tell on
Yes.
yourself. Chaos.
With my son refusing visitation at his father's home, he's tired of nobody listening. He's scared. He uses the word scared. He doesn't want to go to his father's house. I feel like either limited time or supervised visitation needs to happen until a counselor or somebody can actually open up their mind to listen to an actual 14-year-old.
What's he saying? It sounds vague. It's all vague. Just vague. Look at her. She's got nothing. She's like, uh-oh. People aren't moved. Judge has got a poker face.
I don't know.
No, I think that's right. You don't know.
Okay, any additional input other than the pleadings and then those comments that you made there?
Judge. Okay.
No, I mean, I'm sure there is. I'm just, there's a lot. I'm drawing a blank and I apologize.
Okay, it's okay. I read your pleadings and I read Mr. Sorensen's
you.
pleadings. So,
Poor
Mr.
thing.
Sorensen, I'll hear from you on the motion for adequate cause and modification of the parenting plan.
Well, as right now, I am in the middle of trying to seek counsel for that. I have a meeting on the 15th. Is the soonest that I could get in to talk to counseling about, or to an attorney about if I need to acquire an attorney for that or not.
Yeah, the motion is properly noted for today, and we're hearing the motion today.
And then can I go back as far as the counseling that I have set up for him on the 26th?
You can
I
touch
did
on
not-
you can touch on that briefly. Go ahead.
I did not give an intake. The appointment for the 26th is for Christopher to go there to do the intake. I didn't answer any questions or anything. I made the appointment for him to go to there to do the intake. So I just want to make that clear that I didn't answer any questions for Christopher or spoke for Christopher. I just simply made the appointment for him to go and to do the intake himself.
That was
Thanks.
her biggest thing. Look at
Okay, do
that.
you want to address
Her
the
face.
motion for adequate cause and modification?
As far as the adequate cause,
Hilarious.
I feel that this has kind of been an ongoing thing, as I stated in my statement for the contempt. I mean, I've hired a GAL. The GAL has you said you've read through it, so you've read what her report. We're kind of running into that same thing to where Christopher is playing both sides.
So just so you're aware, Mr. Sorensen, I did not read all 222 file documents in the file. I read all applicable and relevant motions related to the two motions today. So I see that Ms. Larson filed the guardian ad litem report back in January of 2020. I have not
Yeah.
reviewed that.
Okay. She had
Why?
found what her findings were is everything that I'm stating, that Christopher was found to have to choose sides over at his mother's house, and that he is involved in adult conversations and in these court matters.
Excuse me. Why didn't the judge? Yeah, exactly. Looking at legal stuff, the channel person said, I really think the judge needs to read the Gal report. Yeah, what's wrong with you, Judge? Why didn't you read the Gal report? I have no idea.
I feel like, I mean, that's all we have is Christopher's best interest. And right now, I have a lot of rules. I mean, I hold him accountable, and he gets away with a lot more at his mother's. So it's kind of Disneyland versus somebody that has, I have rules.
Typical.
Okay. All right, thank you. Okay, so at the outset, it's, Christopher is he's at a really interesting age. He's 14 and sounds like he's almost 15 years old, and it's a tough place to be as a teenager. Number one, it's a tough place to be for a teenager caught between two homes with different parenting styles, it sounds like, and different approaches to parenting.
Yeah.
So here, the motion is brought by Mr. Sorensen for a motion for contempt related to the June 25th visitation. The parenting plan calls for a 50-50 plan, roughly. Well, it's a 50-50 plan with exchanges on Fridays. It sounds like the parties have kind of modified that a little bit to make it easier on them for whatever reason. So that's the motion. The indication is that Mr. Sorensen indicates that there was a refusal of Christopher to come to the visit. There's an indication by Ms. Fike that Christopher has some thoughts about what's happening, what he wants and what he doesn't want. And there's an indication that there was not a clear push or edict, if you will, or direction from Ms. Fike that he needed to go with his dad. Her focus tended to be more on listening to what he had to say.
Yeah.
Dad's focusing to be more on there's a parenting plan and we need to follow that. So these situations are challenging because both parties have a lot to say. And I think that was noted by the variety of pleadings that were filed by the parties. And there's a lot of information that needs to be heard. So the issue is that there's a parenting plan. The parenting plan says it's a 50-50 plan. Life is not static. Children change, parents change, and the court system is kind of slow to change. We're not the most nimble of organizations. And so when there's a change, there's a feeling of immediacy. We need to make a change quickly. Things may have been brewing for some time with Christopher, may have been thinking about some things for a long time, but it kind of came to head on this June 25th date. The difficult part is accommodating that and accommodating the parenting plan. There's kind of a natural tension there. So what needs to happen is that there's a court order. The court order controls. The parties have been unable to come to an agreement themselves, and so they've turned it over to a third party, the court, to resolve and guide the issue. So the court said
He has to say all this stuff and be super redundant because he has to make a record. So it has to all just, he has to say all of it so that it gets recorded into the record so that like the next few times when they come back, which they usually do, when they look back, whoever can read this and go, okay, I get what's going on, or I get how he got to his decision. And right now it feels really wishy-washy to me. It feels like he's like, well, the kid has some, issues. He doesn't want to go to his dad's, but this is the court order. So we kind of have to figure out a way to please both. And it just doesn't seem like he's addressing any of this. Just doesn't, he's just like, and he didn't read the Gal report, which is concerning. I mean, and I have to think, what if the mom had brought forth this motion? dad is bringing forth this motion, saying, hey, I've got a problem with what's going on. I've hired a guardian ad litem, etc. What if the woman had done that? What if it was the other way around? I find it hard to believe that if the woman was like, hey, we're having problems, I'm filing a motion, I'd like to hold him in contempt, I've hired my own guardian ad litem, I have a feeling that the court might listen to that. And in this case, it's like already like, nah, we're kind of going to listen to you, but not really. So that's not
those
good.
parenting plan needs to be followed, and the parents are to make sure that that happens. And 15-year-olds, certainly you can't pick up a 15-year-old or 14-year-old and pick them up and put them in a car. Not going to happen, and would be inadvisable. There's other ways to persuade and encourage.
They're not from our generation. They're not from our generation. When I was 14 or 15, I didn't tell my parents, no, I'm not going there.
And so I will make a finding of contempt. I think there was a clear indication, whether it was stated explicitly, I think it was the implicit message was clear. I'm not forcing you. You don't have to go. I don't think those words were specifically said, but I think the message came across clearly to Christopher that he did not need to go. And it was more important that his father engage with him, listen to him. You know, and the parenting plan indicates that when I looked at that earlier today under paragraph 14, it says the following. I think this is important to note.
So she's in contempt. That's good.
Where it states, each parent agrees to encourage the child to directly discuss with the parent in question any grievance they may have with that parent. I think that was appropriate. Ms. Fike indicated that Christopher had written a letter and he had wanted to share that with his dad, and it sounded like she encouraged Mr. Sorensen to speak to his son about that issue. It also indicates it's the intent of both parties to encourage a direct child-parent bond of communication. So that's there. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to impose a $100 civil penalty. That contempt can be purged by following the parenting plan for 6 months or until there's a change in visitation.
$100 only.
So I also think, and both parties recognize this, that Christopher needs some support through counseling. Sounds like both parties are cognizant of that and working towards that end. That's encouraging and good. And both parents can provide input to the counselor for the benefit of the child. So there's 2 counselors. I don't know if I need to rule on which counselor is going to go, who Christopher is going to attend with. A lot of counselors, you know, it's a personality fit, and sometimes it's you meet with one counselor and it's just not a good fit. So I'm going to leave it to the parties to figure out which counselor he goes to, but he needs to be seen by a counselor. He needs to have that outlet. I'm also going to order this because I think both parents here have a lot of information to share, and there's a lot bottled up that's just needs to come out. So I think I'm going to require both Mr. Sorensen and Ms. Fike to engage themselves with the counselor for at least 3 sessions to discuss how your actions contribute to the situation. It's going to be a self-focus, self-reflective.
I'm sorry. How your actions contribute. I don't know if he is meaning this to be, hey, woman, maybe you're clueless as to what you're doing to make this a problem. Maybe you don't realize you're being such a crappy mother. I don't know if that's what this judge is thinking, but that's what I'm thinking. And this is like not even, it's barely a slap on the wrist to this woman. This man he lost like 2 weeks of time with his child, and this woman is alienating him and, you know, calling police, like so damaging. She's doing it on purpose, 100% doing it on purpose. She knows exactly what she's doing, and she's having plausible deniability. And she's like, oh, I didn't tell him to say that. Oh, he said it all on his own. He did it all on his own. These are his words. It's like, yeah, okay, but you're the ventriloquist. You're the one manipulating him. Come on. And maybe this judge doesn't see it. Maybe he thinks she's just a desperate woman trying to love her son, just giving into him too much and not understanding how it's actually bad for him. I have a feeling that's what this judge is thinking. I'm like, dude, this is part of the problem. You cannot enable these women. Stop thinking they're these delicate flowers that are just, oh, no, they know exactly what they're doing. They know what they're doing.
To better determine how you are contributing to the issue. I'm also going to require, I'm going to appoint a guardian ad litem. So the guardian ad litem can interview and speak with Christopher so his voice can be heard. And then both parents can have their opportunity to be heard also. that guardian ad litem's duty is simply that, to address the issue of a 14, almost 15-year-old boy as far as residential schedule. That's the sole focus. And to make clear that Christopher is not allowed to make the decision of where he goes. He's required to go as the parenting plan requires, and he should be disavowed of that false notion. It's gonna be a lot slower than a 14-year-old child wants things to happen, but we're gonna get input from the guardian ad litem. He'll have an output with the counselor. Both parents will have opportunity to do some self-reflection under the guidance of a counselor to see how they're contributing to the issue, because it doesn't happen in a vacuum. And sometimes it's hard to see that without the professional help. So that's the contempt motion. As far as the motion to modify and the motion for adequate cause, I'm making a finding that there is not adequate cause at this point. So I'm denying the motion for adequate cause and denying the motion to modify the parenting plan. So with that said, I'll ask the parties if you have any questions or clarifications of the court's ruling.
As far as my lost time of the 2 weeks that I missed out on, is that just chalk that up as?
Yeah, good question. I thought about that, and I think under the current circumstances, I'm going to let that ride. I'm not going to order makeup time. I am requiring that the parenting plan pick up this Friday at the Friday or whatever. If it sounds like it was Sunday, maybe what the parties had kind of agreed on. But the parenting plan, if the parties can't agree, it'll be Friday at 5 p.m. That's when the exchange needs to occur. If the parties had been doing a different schedule, you're free to do that, but it has to happen this weekend. The exchange needs to occur.
Okay.
Wonder if it will.
Ms. Fike, do you have any questions or points of clarification?
No, not at this time. Well, actually, when will we hear about the guardian ad litem?
Yeah, thanks. So I'm going to ask the guardian ad litem to do an accelerated review with a review in 30 days is my hope. And for guardian ad litem, that's a pretty quick turnaround time, and we'll have a hearing in roughly 30 days. And so let's go ahead and look at the calendar now
That is
and
fast.
see what we have.
That's really fast. That's good.
Yep.
The judge did that.
Yeah, thank you. Let me take a look at the calendar.
But he could have looked at the other report from the guardian ad litem. What the heck?
Let me ask the parties, as far as your schedule on August 24th, how do your schedules look on August 24th? That's a Thursday at 9 a.m.
I'm recovering from back surgery, so I'm pretty free.
Okay, Ms. Fike?
That's fine with me as well.
Okay, we'll set it for that day. And then the guardian ad litem, it was mentioned Ms. Larson, and do the parties know if she was formally discharged from the case?
He told
No.
us that this was her last case and that she was retiring, so I have no idea.
She was never discharged, but I don't believe that she is doing child ad litem work still. But
Right.
she is still technically, I think, when I reached out to her, she said that she is still on the case.
Yeah, I don't think she's been formally discharged, and I think she's no longer on the guardian ad litem, what we call the registry, so she's not accepting new cases. So
Oh.
Madam Clerk here has a list of the next 3 available guardian ad litems. Each party has the opportunity to strike or get rid of one of the guardian ad litem that have been presented. So I'll give you that list, and then each of you can tell me what your thoughts are as far as what your preferences are as far as striking. Oh, the review, 24th of August.
Next
That's
three names
really
are
fast.
Twyla Corey,
Okay, Twyla Corey,
Keith Lawrence,
and
and Heather Kale.
Heather, last name?
Kale is K-A-H-L.
And Heather Kale. So those are the 3 proposed. So with Ms. Fike, you're the petitioner. Do you want to strike any one of those 3?
I mean, no, maybe the second one.
Keith Lawrence?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll
The
strike him.
man. Because it's a man.
Mr. Sorensen, any of the remaining 2, Twyla Corey or Heather Call?
I don't know any of these, so no, not really.
Neither does she.
Yeah, it's kind of operating in a vacuum. It's difficult. So generally, it's a hierarchical order in which they're listed. So Twyla Corey is first, and then Mr. Lawrence was stricken, then Ms. Call was listed. So I'll appoint Twyla Corey as the guardian ad litem. She will be reaching out to the parties, and it's important that the parties respond to her promptly. I think there's a brief packet that she'll have you fill out, but the sooner you can get in touch with her, the better, so we can move this along. And then as far as the payment, let me ask, was Ms. Corey, was she paid by the court, or was she paid by the parties?
Londa, I think I had to pay, and then
May's paid half.
You paid half.
but I believe that hers was waived.
No, it was not.
Okay.
But regardless.
Show me a
Okay, so
receipt.
what I'll do, it'll be a 50-50 split as far as the payments. And then, so she'll get that order, she'll be in contact with both parties, and you'll have opportunity to chime in, and Christopher will have opportunity to chime in. And I will draft up an order memorializing today's rulings on the motions and get that out to the parties. Do you both have access to Odyssey?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, that's where you can access the case file and look at all the pleadings that have been filed. So I'll file it there, and the parties are welcome to look in there and take a look of the order.
And can you spell Twyla's name first and
Yeah.
last, please?
Yeah. Yeah, Twyla is Twylla, and Corey last name is Corrie.
Perfect. Thank you.
Wow.
Let me check with the parties before we end today's session. Mr. Sorensen, do you have any final items?
I don't believe so, Your Honor.
Okay, Ms. Fike, any final items?
No.
All right, I appreciate both parties' time and input, and that will conclude today's hearing, and then we'll see everybody on August 24th at 9 a.m. for the guardian ad litem report related to a residential schedule. Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
She totally vetoed the guy guardian
Okay, that
ad
marks-
litem. There's the judge that I've seen
All right.
before.
I think that takes
I
us
knew she
to
was
the
doing
Hall and
something.
Sorensen matter. This is 19-300-39308.
Oh, yeah, this is early. Why are they in early?
And Ms. Corey, are you on that matter?
Oh,
I am.
All right, very
that's
good.
not what I thought she'd look like.
Okay. So let's see, I have a contempt filed by Mr. Sorensen. So I'm going to address the, I'm going to have you go ahead and make argument regarding the
That's not
contempt,
what I
sir,
thought she'd
and
look like
then
at all.
and then we'll talk about the adequate clause next. So go ahead. I have had an opportunity to read all the documents in this case. I appreciate that you both filed documents and materials. Sir, why don't you tell me what you want me to know about the contempt?
The parenting plan, section 8, part B, has been broken since she's withholding our child, rejecting visitation after Christopher fled from my house to Miss Fike's sisters during our parenting time. She's in violation of the week on, week off schedule.
What?
She refused to bring him home to me or comply with police officers or bring him to me or to cooperate as a parent in any way to communicate, discuss their current situation, as you can see from the text that I had filed.
Wow.
Section 14 under restrictions was also violated, where she discussed the residential schedule with our son outside of already agreed upon parenting plan. She discouraged our son to not attend and led him to believe it should be his choice. He came under the impression his mother hates the ruling set forth by Judge Evans, and that she is not the one making him come to my house, that it was a stranger making these choices for him.
What?
It is my understanding that Section 14 exists because Christopher benefits if he is under the impression that both parents are on the same page with respect to the current plan. He should be under the impression that the courts are looking out for what is best for him. It would benefit transition day to see both parents be supportive of one another in front of him. The opposite happened. By not setting a positive example of the transition, I believe it set stage for our son to flee. Our child was not in any way in danger, harmed, neglected, or suffering. After our son sneaking out, she had no legal right to keep him away from me. Christopher's transition to my house was well planned, including therapy sessions, church, a basketball camp, and reunification counseling. He had everything in place for a smooth transition, but it was stolen from him.
So when is the last time you had your son in your care?
The 22nd
Of June?
August.
Okay. Wait, hold on. So it's August now. So
Yeah, June. Sorry, I'm
Okay.
sorry.
okay. So June 22nd, and you haven't had your son in your care since then.
No.
Have you had phone contact with him since then?
I've tried to reach out to him via text, and I haven't received anything from him back.
Awful.
Okay.
It's awful. You can hear the pain.
Thank you. So I'm going to handle these one at a time. I might make my decision all at the end, but I want to kind of do one operation at a time. Ms. Corey, tell me about your involvement in this case. So I see old orders in this case, or old GAL reports, but I don't see a current, and I don't see an order appointing you. So tell me how you entered the case.
So I was appointed, I believe about 3 weeks ago. I believe it was by Judge Evans, and it's been kind of a comedy of errors. I have not yet gotten an order appointing.
Okay.
But because there was a very quick turnaround and Judge Evans was looking for an initial review next week in this case, I went ahead and got started and sent intakes out to the parties. They filled them out. I've interviewed both of the parties so far, but because I don't have that order appointing yet, I'm just kind of stuck at this point.
Okay. Very good. That makes perfect sense to me. So I appreciate that. Have you been able to talk with the child of the case?
Not yet. Because it's outside of the school year, and I like to speak with the children in a more neutral place than one of the homes. I have been. I believe I have a place to do that secured, so I'll be setting that up soon.
Okay. Very good. I appreciate that. All right, Ms. Hall, what would you like to say about the contempt?
I am Miss Fike. I've been married over a year now. Sorry, I got the paperwork, but my last name is Fike.
Ah,
So when you name yourself on the screen, go ahead and name yourself Ms. Fike instead of Ms. Hall, and that's certainly helpful to giving you the
burn.
correct name.
Okay, I didn't see my name on here at all. Okay, so
Oh,
on June
that was
25th,
awesome.
my son refused to go to his father's house
That
due
was
to mental and
fantastic.
emotional issues that we've been going on for years,
Oh my
as of the
God.
other court papers.
Hold on.
We were
Hold on. That was so awesome. Here's the deal. We've got this judge is obviously a female, and we've got this woman, the mother is obviously female too. This judge has said when she started the case this morning or whatever time it is, she said, I've read everything that has to do with this case. She has read everything. She knows what time it is. And the thing about women is that once we understand, when we see a woman up to some shady stuff, we will call it out. And I saw that happen en masse actually during the Amber Heard versus Johnny Depp case, or Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard case. At first, everyone's like, oh, me too, believe all women, et cetera, she's probably, telling the truth, et cetera. And then they started to see how she was acting, and women called it out. And it was great. And more women started to do that. Now, I wish it were more, but I'm starting to see it. And I'm already seeing it in this judge, because she called her Miss Hall, and then nasty Miss Fike or whatever her name is, I've been married for over a year, blah, blah. And boy, the judge got her right back. Then change the name on your screen. Oh, it just was awesome. I had to relive it, take it in. For we women, we need to take these bad women down. That's what's going to do it. We have to do it.
we had a court date July 20th. That was when Miss Corey was appointed to us to figure out why he refused to go to his house and figure out what the issues really are. Judge Evans said he appointed Twyla for Christopher's voice. He ordered Christopher to go to his dad's July 21st, that next day on Friday. So he's seen his son at the end of July, not June. Christopher went to his dad's. Well, his dad showed up. Christopher took off down the street. His dad went after him. They ended up leaving together after they talked, just for me to get a call the next morning that he ran away from his dad's house. Talking to the cops, they never told me to bring him back. They said they understood and to keep him safe. So I don't know what he's meaning, what the cops said to him, but what the conversations with the cops with me were totally different. And they were aware of the court. They're aware of the guardian ad litem. So for me to try to keep my son safe and why he's refusing and running away from his father's house, I want those things to be addressed. I'm not withholding Christopher. I'm not keeping him from his dad. If he goes there again, what if he runs away again? So I'm trying to think of down the line. No, I'm not withholding him at all. Christopher refused. Christopher ran away from his father's house. And I feel like, knowing all the stuff that's been going on for years, and I can't force him to go, especially he's 6'2". I'm not going to physically force my child to go. Yes, we need to figure out why he's not wanting to go and people to listen, but I am definitely not withholding my son from his father. That's the whole reason.
She wants everyone to come to the conclusion that the dad must be abusive, and that must be why Christopher is running away. She's trying to get everyone to come to that inevitable conclusion. And I'm looking at the guardian ad litem, and I'm looking at this judge, and I see two women that are like, no, girl, you're lying.
Why Miss Corey is here to, I can't wait for her to talk to him.
So does your son have a cell phone?
He does.
And he has it currently?
Yes.
Has he been in the last month visiting with friends?
Yes.
Going places?
Mostly my sisters, because I work, and him and his cousin Ashton are best friends. This whole summer, he's been to 4 different friends' houses on my time. 4 times this whole entire summer. So yes, he has.
What school district are you in?
He was starting his freshman year this year.
Oh, they have to delete that.
All right. Thank you.
He had his first counseling appointment with Core Health on August 1st. He had his second one on the 15th, just 2 days ago, with Core Health as well. So he is in
Did you provide the father with the information regarding the dates and times of the appointments?
No, but they were verbally said in court what time they were.
Did you provide the father with the name of the counselor?
No, because I just found out the name of the counselor just last week because we did the intake with a lady named Linda, and I just met Hannah, which her name is Hannah from Core Health. I don't know her last name.
Irrelevant.
On the 15th is when we met her.
Excuses. Give me a break.
Does your child have a diagnosis?
Not yet. No, they're setting up another counseling for this afternoon and hopefully next week.
She sure does hope so, though.
How many times have you taken the child in the car and taken him to his father's house since that last July visit?
He hasn't been to his father's house.
Right. I'm asking if you put the child in the car and drove him over to dad's house.
I have not.
Have you dialed up dad on the phone, handed the phone to child and said, you need to talk to dad?
No.
Okay. All right. We're also before
Great.
the court on the issue of adequate cause. So ma'am, you filed those documents asking for adequate cause to modify the parenting plan. What would you like me to know about that?
What?
The reason I want to modify is because of his refusal and not wanting to go. I want him to see his father. I want him to be able to have that relationship with him, but there's also something going on there that we need to figure out.
Okay. Sir, what would you like me to know about adequate cause?
Well, I mean, this has already been proven that there was no adequate cause by Mr. Evans. I don't really, as of right now, I mean, other than since he's been in Ms. Fike's care for the last few months, I've been receiving countless. He's been sneaking out, he ran away from my house. He's cut himself off of all of his encouraging friends and relatives. That's where I'm at.
I see
Judge
that
Evans appointed Twyla to figure out what's going on.
I think
So
we know.
with that being said, I feel like Mr. Evans,
No.
Judge Evans, excuse me, in a way, not believed,
I
but believed
think we
there's
know.
something going on, that he said guardian ad litem to
No.
be Christopher's voice.
No.
So
No. It was the
I don't
CT
understand.
doing.
We get two different aspects of what
When was that hearing held?
July 20th was our last court date, with him refusing to go to his dad's.
I'm just looking for the clerk's minutes. Okay, here we go.
Oh, she gets all the details. She looks at all of it.
So did the court just put it on today for review? Because it sounds like the court previously found contempt.
Yes.
So the court
So
found
this is-
contempt on July 20th. The court found the contempt,
Mhm.
denied adequate cause, will sign the order, and court appoints guardian ad litem. Initial review next week. So this is your second contempt, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I was just
I
clarifying because
see.
it looked like when I initially prepped for today, it looked like because there wasn't, I didn't have that note as far as the adequate cause being decided. I did see the second contempt. Okay, so then we're
Okay.
just on for those two things.
This is such a contempt.
And then Ms. Corey, what I'm going to do today before I leave is to issue an order for you
Thank
so
you.
that you will have that today. And I will ask my clerk to send that, or my
Yeah.
JA to send that out so that you get a copy of it and can start executing on it.
Yeah, she should have
Did the
had that
court
already.
set financial obligations or no? To your knowledge?
I do not recall. I believe it was private pay.
Okay, that's fine. I'm going to do private pay and I'm just going to make the parties 50-50 at this point for your services. We'll keep it on next week for that review. And
Okay.
then
So that review is going to be next week. This is just a hearing because Dad brought it up because Mom is still not
Okay. And
bringing.
so, sir, I just want to clarify, when
over.
is the last time that you saw your son? Was so July?
Yes, ma'am. When he was ordered to come to my house for the Friday,
Right.
which he didn't want to give me any lost time or anything, but we were supposed to resume the regular
Right.
parenting plan of week on, week off.
That was the
And then
last
he
week.
fled my house that
The
next morning, and then I
hearing.
haven't seen him since.
It's a discipline problem.
Just one moment.
And the mother is adding to it. She's turning him against them, turning him against the dad and teaching him to disrespect him and that he doesn't have to follow his rules and filling his head with all this stuff. It's awful. She's creating a monster. And she thinks, these women.
Other than that short little window that I did receive him, it's been nearly 60 days since I've had my son, which is, I mean, I've never been more than a week.
It's awful.
Yeah, give me just 1 minute. And ma'am, it's your testimony that I saw there was a statement from the child, and it's your testimony that that was the child's statement that you asked him to write.
Absolutely not. No. On June 25th, Christopher was supposed to go to his dad's at 8 p.m. that night, and he calls me in there a little before 6. Says, "Mom, what would happen if I refuse to go to my dad's? I don't want to go. I'm tired of everything." So we talked to him about it and what would happen. And He said, I'm also writing a letter. He was in the middle of typing that said letter. And he said he wants me to read it when he's done writing it. So
I don't
no, I did
believe
not
that.
make him write. I didn't tell him to write. It was a surprise that he was, not necessarily a surprise because he's never wanted to go to his dad's, but he's always went. He's never refused. He's never ran away. I feel like there's something going on because nobody's listening.
She keeps insinuating.
There's something going on over there, why he refused and
All
why
right.
he's getting
Thank
away.
you. You've answered my question.
Shut up. I like this woman. She's what we need. She's what we need on the bench. Oh, this judge is fantastic. It's so different from the man judge, right? She sees right through this woman. She's having none of it. She's over it. It makes me think, I just wonder about these, like what brings people to where they are and how did she get to the point where she can see it? She can absolutely see these shenanigans this woman is playing. She can see this. Oh, there's got to be something going on. There's something going on. We need to listen to him. There's a reason he doesn't want to go. Yeah, he doesn't want to follow rules. And because you're manipulating him. And boys always want to please their mothers. It's just true. Oh, but this judge is like, you got to get up way earlier in the morning than that. Imagine if I were a judge. I wonder what she's writing. She's pretty poker faced too. And I wonder what the guardian ad litem is thinking. Because she's had some experience. She's seen what it's like out there. And they have to be noticing this stuff. They have to be seeing what we're seeing when they're exposed to it so much.
I appreciate everyone being here today. I appreciate Ms. Corey being here today. I am going to find contempt. I'm going to enter a civil sanction of $1,000. I'm finding that the mother is able to follow the court orders, but is not willing, that you are intentionally defying the court's orders. I'm also making a separate finding that the mother is directly involving the child in the court process and that you are encouraging the child to disobey and making no effort to follow the court's orders.
Yes.
Here's the reality. Nope. This is where I talk. I've given everyone a chance to talk and I've listened. When I read the court file, here's my take. If I was making a decision on adequate cause today, I'd make that finding and I would transfer full custody to father. That's your risk, ma'am. What you're doing right now, you are fully aware of what you're doing. You are deciding that you are going to disobey the court order. You're not encouraging your kid to go. You're allowing your child to believe he has some kind of say. He does not. This is a parental decision. And if the two of you can't make that decision, it's the court's decision on where your kid's going to live. Your child is more important than ownership. And what I see in this case file is ownership, is somebody wanting to possess that child, own that child, but not parent that child. And that is a huge concern for the court. When I see these nice text messages between child and stepmom, and then you telling kid, you don't even have to answer her. You don't have to go to that sports game. That's ridiculous. When you tell a child, especially a young teenager, you don't have to respect that adult. You know what that translates to? I don't have to respect mom. I don't have to respect dad. I don't have to respect my teachers. I don't have to respect the court. I can blow all of that on all those people off. So when you think that you're just telling, oh, you can disrespect kind of stepmom, that's not what's happening. You're telling that child he can disrespect everyone.
Yep.
That is terrible for that child. You have 4 years left with this young man before he is launching off to adulthood, and you are setting him on a course for disaster.
Yep.
Because you are setting him up to think that he can just disobey everyone. And that is.
And that's why kids who come out of single mother households get in trouble with the law, get in trouble with all kinds of things because they don't have respect, they don't have boundaries, they don't have discipline.
It's not how school works. It's not how the world works. And that's going to be a harsh reality for him.
Yep.
When you do those types of things, it is so damaging. And especially when what I see on the other side is folks being loving and caring. Look, teenagers are hard. They are hard work. They are not easy. Sometimes they are just going to be disobedient and annoying and frustrating. But that's where you as parents come in and you need to step up and say, you have to go to your dad's. It's your dad's time. You're going. And what you're doing right now is he's on his phone. He's playing his little games. He's going to his friends' houses. That all sounds like he gets to do what he wants. And you're teaching him that instead of follow the court order. It's at the end of the day, it's you that are going to pay the penalty for this, not the child. It's you that risks losing all custody of your child.
Yep.
I honestly had notes on whether or not there needed to be a pause in any contact with you, ma'am,
Wow,
before and the child need to be with dad and no contact with you for a period of time. That's how serious I take these orders. That's how serious the court takes orders as far as parenting time. So this idea that kid gets to be on his phone, dinking around, watching TV, eating snacks, all while you are fully aware he's disobeying the court order and you're disobeying the court order, that is not acceptable. And you need to think long and hard about your course of action, because
Wow.
you're going down a course of action that I don't think you're going to like the outcome. So at this point, I'm signing the contempt. Ma'am, I highly recommend that you ensure child goes on his visit with his dad. And it's not a visit. Child needs to go to dad for his dad's residential
Yes.
time. That is an
It's
equal
not a
parent
visit.
here. And everyone needs to realize that and get on
Yes.
board really quickly.
Yes.
Because at this point, the court hasn't found adequate cause, but I think the court essentially is reserving that issue, and it can go the other way. The court can find adequate cause and award father full custody.
She's
So that is the risk
fantastic.
here. So I encourage everyone here to really quickly get on board with getting child to both houses as ordered. There should be no further deviations. Child starts school in a week and a half. The idea that we're going to play this game as child starting his high school career is ridiculous. Everyone needs to get on board with what the child needs and stop sort of playing these games.
Yep.
Encourage relationships with both sides. Stop alienating father and father's family. That is not helpful to that child.
Right.
You should be thankful and grateful for every positive adult that wants to be involved in your
Yep.
child's life, instead of trying to encourage your kid to blow them off
Yep.
and ruin that relationship. That's not healthy. It's damaging.
Yes.
I'm making finding of contempt. I'm setting the matter over for 1 week. Everyone needs to communicate with Ms. Corey anytime that any documents she asks for, any materials she asks for, any access she asks for to anyone. Everyone needs to be Johnny on the spot with that. And then Ms. Corey, I don't think the court's expecting a written report from you. I think an oral report will be just fine, given the sort of limited nature of your ability to chat with everybody and the court not getting that order entered.
Thank you.
All right. So I made myself very clear. It is my expectation that that young man will be exercising his regular time for the court order. Best of luck to you all. We'll see you here next week.
Woo. Oh my gosh. I'm
All right,
so
that's going to take
excited.
us to
Oh, this
Hall
is
and
not-
Sorensen. And I did see Ms.
Oh, it
Corey on
is.
the line. There you are. Welcome. And then do I have
That's what
Ms.
she
Tiffany
looks
Hall?
like.
All right. Oh, Tiffany Fike. That's right. Thank you. And Mr. Sorensen.
Yes.
Perfect. I see you there. All right. Ms. Corey, go ahead.
Well, I have had the opportunity thus far to meet with both of the parents and the child. I really have no recommendations beyond the original parenting plan at this point. I believe we should move
Different to
forward
me.
with that in
Does
place
not
as
look
it
like
is,
her.
and go from there.
Thank you, Ms. Corey. I appreciate your report. All right. Next, I'm going to turn the time to you, Ms. Fike. At this point, the Guardian Alliance recommendation is to maintain the current parenting plan, at least until she can further her investigation. Would you like to speak to that, Ms. Fike?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
that's great that she wants to keep it the same and wants to further this investigation. I feel like that's a great idea for her to continue her investigation.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Sorensen, go ahead.
I feel the same. The only other thing that I would like to request is maybe if we could apport a third party communication outlet, like My Family Wizard
Oh,
or something like
they
that.
can't communicate.
Me and Miss Spike just can't seem to communicate very well, even via text messages. So I think that would be a good outlet for us to
So
utilize.
nice about it.
Ms. Fike, any opinion on using Our Family Wizard or a similar parenting app?
I've never had issues with text messages other than him not responding to my text messages. So, I mean, I feel like text messages as well as the Wizard app, I think it'll be the exact same. So, I mean, I'm not sure.
Well, Our Family Wizard can be monitored by the court. And text messages are kind of like off on the side. I mean, you can come back in and be like, look at the text message that they sent. But if you don't want to be on Our Family Wizard, from my experience watching all this family court, being disabled means you watch a lot of stuff. I think that's suspicious that she doesn't want to do Our Family Wizard. You would want to do it. You want to be like, look at how nice I am. Look at how fair I am. She's shady. She's so shady. Thank goodness for this judge. Sees right through it. It honestly, a lot of the times it takes a woman to see it, to call it out. The other judge, the man judge, Judge Evans, before, he was like, maybe you don't know how this is damaging. And this woman's like, you know exactly what you're doing and you're going to knock it off right now.
Give me just one moment.
Just kind of want to know who that lady is snacking up, who's just stuck her finger on us and is snacking. What is that? She's in jail. SCJ jail? Maybe she's just in the courtroom here. The Zoom courtroom. No idea. There's only like 7 minutes left of the video. Like, just want to see, like, does she lose custody, or is this just, are we just scheduling for next time? And this is the thing. If you haven't seen it yet, you know, if you haven't watched a video yet and you're just like cold reacting, you don't know. This could be just sort of boring towards the end. We don't know. But I kind of need the time to absorb how amazing this judge is. It's just sad that the whole process takes so long. I mean, clearly dad and stepmom are on the up and up, and they're doing things fairly.
Mr. Sorensen, has the child began following the current parenting plan?
Yes. Yes, we had a really good week this week.
Aww. Aww.
All right. Thanks, folks. I'm glad to hear parenting plan's getting back on track, and the guardian ad litem is getting online. Thank you, Ms. Corey, for being so quick. I know that was a very, very fast turnaround, so I appreciate you making that effort. Here's what I'm going to order today. So I'm just going to order that the current parenting plan be maintained, that the GAL investigation will continue. The parents, I do want you to use Our Family Wizard. You'll both need to log
Good.
on today. Just if you Google Our Family Wizard, you'll be able to find it. You both need to pay your own fee for that. The fee is pretty minimal. It does do some sort of housekeeping functions that can be useful to both of you, and it's a good way of sort of managing those communications. You'll each pay your own fee for that service, but again, it's fairly minimal. Ms. Corey, I did set, I believe, a review in that guardian ad litem order. Let me just double check.
Man, I'm gonna have to find the next hearing if we don't have it.
Yes. Oh, no, it says to be determined. So I did not set one. So let's do that today. Ms. Corey, when are you looking to be able to complete your investigation?
Probably end of October, early November.
What? Isn't it
And
August?
I also do need to address payment today.
Okay. Let's set a date and then we'll address payments. All right. I'm going to say,
It's probably gonna be just
let's have your
housekeeping here at the
report.
end. But just in case,
Let's have it ideally no later than November 7th with a review on November 14th.
'cause you know, if I stop it, something crazy is gonna happen.
Oh, I'm sorry, not 14th. I'm going to
We
put this
watch
the
it.
16th.
It'll be boring. That's
That's
just how
Thursday.
it goes. It's like you take a raincoat, it's gonna rain. You take an umbrella. I mean, I said it the opposite. If you take an umbrella, it's not gonna rain.
Right. So we'll be back here and all parties will need to be back here on November 16th at 9 a.m.
God.
Again, still via Zoom. So you'll just need to appear the same way you got to today. And then Ms. Corey, tell me about payment.
No payment received as of yet from either party. Both have indicated that it's a hardship for them.
Okay. So sir, let's address that with you first. Are you currently employed?
I'm currently on FMLA. I had back surgery
Yeah, he had
at the
back
end of
surgery.
June, so
That's
I've been
right.
trying to recover from back surgery. I should be getting back to work here hopefully in the next couple weeks or so, but it's been kind of rough off of FMLA.
Okay. And Ms.
That's
Fike,
fair.
as
That's
to
fair.
payment of the guardian ad litem.
And he already hired one.
I told Miss Corey that because I was told I can get a waiver for her fees because I cannot afford it at all. I had a medical emergency. I was out for a month and a half as well. And I even called the clerk's office because I couldn't find that waiver fee, and they even helped me look. The administration at the clerk's office helped me look for that, and they told me to address that in court, that we can't find the waiver fee for her fees.
Okay. Well, I just appointed her last week, so I don't think anything's been submitted for that. If there was previous waivers in the file for like a prior GAL or a prior fee, that wouldn't necessarily translate to the waiver for Ms. Corey's fees. How long ago was your medical emergency?
It was all through June, July.
Are you working?
I just got back to work. Yes.
Okay. How much do you make per hour?
20.
Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to transfer this to county pay. So I am going to have the county pay it, but I am going to make that, Ms. Corey, to be reviewed because it sounds like both parties had some sort of issues that happened pretty recently, but that those issues would likely be resolved by the time we get to the hearing in November.
She's very
So
reasonable, this
what that
judge.
means, folks, is that the county is essentially going to pay Ms. Corey up front. The expectation, though, is that you may need to reimburse or pay additional funds to Ms. Corey at the end.
Well, at least
So
that
don't
takes
assume that
care
that
of
means
Miss
that
Corey.
you're sort of don't have any obligation going forward. It's just that the court's going to allow payment of Ms. Corey directly from the court initially, and we're going to review that in November. Does that make sense to you, Mr. Sorensen?
Yes.
And to you, Ms. White?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, very good. So with that, anything further on this case, Ms. Corey?
Dang it.
I don't believe so.
Find the next
All
one.
right, anything for
Gonna
any other
search
questions from
for
you,
the
Ms. White?
next, hearing.
No, I don't have any more questions.
That
All right,
lady up top,
to you,
I
Mr.
don't know what her
Sorensen.
case is.
No.
She's-
All right,
She
very
is
good.
tripping.
Thank you both. I think
Actually,
Ms. Corey.
Oh,
I'm
ahead.
so sorry. I do have a question. 2 court dates ago, I submitted my mother's hair follicle test. My son hasn't seen her in almost 3 years. And Judge Basher is the one who put that in to where she needed to do that for my son to see her. And I wasn't able to stay at either court dates to bring it up again, but it was filed. Can my son see his grandmother?
That's not before me today. If you want to address that, you have to file a motion.
You have to file a
So that's not
motion.
before me today. You can file a motion, and then the court can address that.
can't just bring stuff
Okay,
up.
so is it just any motion? Because I was told just to submit the paperwork for my court date, and that's what I did, and it's never been addressed. I didn't know what motion to file.
Lady,
I
file
can't
a
give you
motion.
legal advice because I'm sitting as a neutral decision maker. So I can't give either party advice on what to do or what to file. So I invite folks to speak to legal aid. You can hire an attorney even just for a consult to get advice. You can look online. There's lots of options for you, but I can't direct you specifically on what to do.
Okay.
Okay, appreciate that. All right, with that, I am going to sign an order that just reflects my rulings today and makes it clear for the next judicial officer when we get here in November to sort of have a good idea on what's
Oh,
happening.
it'll be a
All right,
different judge.
thank you both. That concludes this.
November. So I'm going to have to look, unless this just happened. I don't know. I have to do research because now I'm invested and I want to know like what happens. What I really want to know is I don't think this woman is going to pull it together. She is just, once they're like, this is what's happening, and I swear he's being abused, and there's something going on, and that's why he doesn't want to go. They will just double down and double down and double down. They're never gonna like back off. They'll just double down on their whole lie that they want everyone to believe. And the women always have to make somebody the bad guy. They always have to make the man the bad guy, because that way they're not the bad guy. And they live in like a very simple sort of narrative, like a Disney narrative. Like there has to be a villain, and there has to be an innocent person, and there has to be a hero. And they like to play 2 roles, victim and hero, And, this case was a good one to see it just plain. And bonus to see the male judge just not have a clue about what this woman was up to. And the female judge just call her out and let her have it, but in such a professional way. And to be so fair and balanced, not to sound like Fox News or something, but yeah, to be so balanced and, completely professional the rest of the time. And I'll tell you something that women hate. Oh my God, they hate it so bad. When you can really call them out, but be completely reasonable and nice and polite about it, and not be taking anything personally, and just be matter of fact. It will drive them bonkers. They just will lose their minds, and they'll tell on themselves even more. And I'd love to know about this judge and her parents and her life experience. That would be fascinating. But I'm fascinated by all humans. It's like like I'm not one of them or something. But that was interesting to watch, and I like to, like I said, see these women folk in their natural habitat when they're cornered, and see what they do and how they behave. Because sometimes, I can talk about it all the time, but if we're actually watching it, then it brings up different aspects to these details that the way women spin a yarn and end up hurting all kinds of people their children, their ex-husbands, the new spouses of their exes, just anybody. And they don't care. They don't care who is collateral damage. They just don't, including the children. And this judge just now, she said, it's about ownership for you. And you need to parent. Be less concerned about owning the child and much more concerned about parenting the child. And stop thinking that rules, she didn't say this part, stop thinking that rules and discipline and boundaries and those things are abuse. And stop thinking that if your child is unhappy, that means there's abuse. Because usually, if your kid likes you all the time and is happy all the time, you're probably not parenting them very well. It's like, what are you going to do? Feed them candy for dinner when they're 6 years old so they're happy all the time? No. So this was a great case study for us to watch. And if you're still here with me, good for you, and what's wrong with you? I'm just kidding. I get tired of hearing myself after a while. But it was good hanging out and watching this together. I try to mix it up and see different things and look at different things, examples. So have a great night, and hopefully it won't take 10 hours for YouTube to upload this video. And again, if you're interested in any kind of legal stuff or whatever, please go and subscribe to Looking at Legal Stuff, because I appreciate their content. It's very helpful for all of this research that I'm constantly doing. And I hope you have a great night. And don't forget to like and subscribe. And I'll see you guys on the next one.